Have you ever walked into a room and felt the mood before anyone said a word? Not because you are magical, not because you are reading minds, but because your attention goes to the invisible layer first, the pause before someone answers the smile that does not reach their eyes, the way a group suddenly gets quieter when one person walks in. If that sounds familiar, you may have wondered if you are an INFJ, one of the personality types often described as rare in the Myers-Briggs system. But before we turn that into a label, let us slow down. A personality type is not a diagnosis. It is not a certificate that proves you are special, and it is not a box you have to live inside forever. At its best, it is a language. A way to notice patterns in how you pay attention, make meaning, protect energy, and care about people. So this video is not here to tell you who you are. It is here to give you 8 signs that your inner wiring may look a lot like the INFJ pattern, quiet, intuitive, deeply feeling structured on the outside, and often misunderstood on the inside. Sign 1, you notice emotional shifts before people explain them. You can be sitting in a meeting, a classroom, a family dinner, or a group chat, and something in you catches the change. Someone answers a little too fast. Someone goes quiet in a way that feels different from normal quiet. Someone says, "I am fine," and your body does not believe it. This is not supernatural. In psychology, personality is often studied as patterns of attention, emotion, and behavior. Introversion and extroversion, for example, are better understood as a range, not a hard switch. Some people orient outward toward action and stimulation. Others orient inward toward meaning, context, and subtle signals. If you are INFJ, like your attention may naturally scan for what is unsaid. The gift is perception. The burden is that you can start feeling responsible for every signal you detect. Sign 2, you need solitude, but you are not emotionally cold. People may assume that because you disappear, cancel plans, or need long, quiet evenings, you do not care. But often the opposite is true. You care so much that being around people can feel like running too many tabs at once. Their tone, their stress, their expectations, their unspoken disappointment, their need for reassurance. It all comes in. So solitude becomes less like avoidance and more like emotional digestion. You need time alone to understand what belongs to you and what you absorbed from everyone else. That is why an INFJ-like person can love deeply and still need distance. They can be loyal and still vanish for a while. They can want connection and still feel relieved when plans are canceled. Sign 3, you think in patterns, not just events. When something happens, you rarely see only the moment. A friend takes 3 days to reply and your mind does not stop at "they were busy." It starts building a map. Is this a pattern? Did their energy change last week? Are they pulling away? Did I say something that shifted the relationship? Is this what happened before with someone else? Sometimes this helps you understand people with unusual depth. Other times it becomes overthinking with a philosophy degree. The INFJ-like mind often wants the meaning behind the behavior. It looks for the thread connecting small moments. That can make you insightful. It can also make you tired because not every delay is a hidden message and not every mood shift is a mystery you have to solve. Sign 4, you feel pulled between helping people and protecting your peace. A lot of people with this pattern become the emotional translator in their relationships. They can explain why someone is acting defensive. They can sense why a friend keeps choosing the wrong partner. They can soften conflict, name the real wound, and help everyone feel understood. That sounds beautiful until it becomes a job nobody hired you for. You may start believing that if you understand someone's pain, you are responsible for carrying it. But empathy is not the same thing as unlimited access. Research on personality often links traits like agreeableness and openness with empathy, perspective taking, and sensitivity to other people. But even a strong capacity for empathy needs boundaries. A gift becomes a burden when it has no edge. Sign 5, you are private but not simple. People may know your role, your smile, your work ethic, your helpfulness, or your calm voice. But very few people know the full inner weather. You may share carefully. You may test whether someone can hold a small truth before you give them a larger one. You may have a whole emotional world that does not show on your face until you finally trust someone. This privacy can make you seem mysterious, but often it is not about trying to be interesting. It is about safety. You learned that not everyone deserves access to the most tender parts of you. You learned that being understood is rare. So you do not hand out your interior life cheaply. Sign 6, you are idealistic but disappointed easily. You may carry a quiet picture of how people could treat each other. More honesty, more kindness, more emotional responsibility, less cruelty disguised as humor, less pretending not to care. And because you can imagine that better version so clearly, ordinary selfishness can hit you harder than you expect. A careless comment stays with you. A broken promise changes how you see someone. A lack of depth in a conversation can leave you feeling strangely lonely, even in a crowded room. This is where the INFJ pattern can become painful. Your standards are not always unrealistic, but your nervous system may react as if every disappointment proves you do not belong here. The work is not to become cynical. The work is to let people be human without letting their immaturity become your despair. Sign 7, you can read others but struggle to explain yourself. You may understand someone else's motives with uncomfortable accuracy. But when someone asks, "What do you need?" you freeze. Your inner world is layered. One feeling has 3 reasons behind it. One decision connects to 10 values. One boundary is tied to years of small moments that finally added up. So when you try to explain yourself, it can come out too intense, too abstract, or too late. This is why many INFJ-like people feel most fluent in writing long voice notes, late-night reflections, or conversations with one trusted person. You do not lack feelings. You may have too many feelings arriving with too much context. Sign 8, you are not looking for attention, you are looking for resonance. You do not need everyone to understand you. But when one person does, it can feel like your whole body exhales. You want the kind of connection where you do not have to perform being easier than you are. Where your depth is not treated like drama. Where your quiet is not mistaken for arrogance. Where your sensitivity is not mocked as weakness. This is why the word rare can be emotionally tempting. It gives language to a lifelong feeling of being different. But be careful. If you use rare to mean better, the label becomes another wall. If you use rare to mean my pattern is less common, so I may need to explain myself with more patience, then it becomes useful. The goal is not to worship a type. The goal is to understand your pattern well enough that it stops controlling you from the shadows. If these signs fit, here is the gentle truth: you do not have to prove that you are INFJ to take your inner life seriously. You can honor your need for solitude. You can protect your attention. You can stop turning every emotional signal into a responsibility. You can let your empathy have doors and windows, not just open walls. And you can remember that personality language is a map, not a prison. A map can help you say, this is why I get tired. This is why I notice so much. This is why shallow connection leaves me hungry. This is why I need meaning, not just noise. But you are still allowed to grow beyond the map. You are allowed to be quieter in one season and bolder in another. You are allowed to be sensitive without being available to everyone. You are allowed to care deeply without becoming the emotional manager of every room. Maybe the rarest thing about you is not a 4-letter type. Maybe it is the way you keep looking for meaning in a world that rewards speed. Maybe it is the way you still want to be kind, even after seeing what people hide. And maybe your task is not to become less deep. Maybe it is to build a life where your depth finally has somewhere safe to go.